Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive.
Great to be diving in.
Today, we're not just, reading between the lines. We're digging into the actual fragments of a man's life.
Yeah.
A life under some kind of mysterious pressure.
Yes. Drawn from Kafka's The Trial, we're looking at K.
Exactly, Kay. We've got this stack of observations, internal thoughts, all from his perspective. And our mission really is to unpack these moments, to see how he handles things, personal life, work, even bigger questions, when the ground rules seem to be, well, constantly shifting under him.
And what you'll see, I think, is a character really grappling, fighting for control, for dignity, for his own sense of self-belief.
Yeah.
These fragments, they give us this unique view into the psychological cost of ambiguity, and also that human tendency we all have to find meaning, or maybe make meaning, when things just don't make sense.
It definitely raises that big question, doesn't it? How do you try to assert some agency when you're caught up in stuff you can't really grasp? Especially these abstract, maybe internal forces.
Absolutely. It's a deep dive into the mind, as you said.
Okay, so let's start maybe with Kay's home life, his personal space, which seems just as unstable as everything else.
Right. So after something happens, we don't know exactly what, he finds himself totally cut off from Fräulein Bürstner.
He gets desperate, right?
Yeah.
Just wants to talk to her, even a few words.
Oh, completely. His first attempts are almost obsessive. Looking through the keyhole, getting up super early, hoping to bump into her.
Classic avoidance behavior on her part, maybe. But when watching fails, he tries something else.
He does. He resorts to letters, sends the same letter to her office and her apartment.
Wow, okay. Covering all bases.
It's a very calculated move, trying to get back some control, justifying himself, offering to make amends, promising he'd, quote, never again overstep the bounds she set him.
All for just a single conversation.
Exactly. It's striking, isn't it? That formality and his desperation, using letters for this very personal problem, trying to impose some kind of order.
But instead of a reply, he gets, well, something else entirely.
Yeah, this new development, Fräulein Montauk moves in with Fräulein Bürstner.
Kay sees this happen, watches this woman described as pale, frail, with a slight limp, moving her stuff in.
And for Kay, this isn't just, a new roommate situation. His suspicion flares up immediately. It feels like a threat.
Everything feels like a threat to him, it seems.
Precisely. And this leads straight into this really strained chat with Frau Grubach, the landlady.
He hasn't spoken to her in days, apparently.
Yeah.
And his first words are harsh, asking about the noise.
A harsh question, yes. Kind of implying disapproval. But Frau Grubach, interestingly, she doesn't take it as anger. She seems to think it's him about to forgive her for something.
Talk about misreading the room. Or maybe wishful thinking.
Could be. She's so relieved she flips from denying any suspicions about Fräulein Bürstner to suddenly admitting she'd, quote, seen with her own eyes things she'd hinted at before.
But Kay just brushes it off.
Completely dismissive, says something like he wouldn't fall out with you over some girl I don't know.
Which must have been a huge relief for Frau Grubach.
Immense relief. But then she pushes it a bit, makes this ill-advised comment asking why Kay had defended Fräulein Bürstner so strongly before.
In Kay.
Just silence. He's irritated by her, what he sees as her mute helplessness. It's such a small moment, but it shows his inability to connect, really.
And that failure to connect, it leaves a vacuum, doesn't it?
It does, and others step in. Frau Grubach actually benefits. She gets a free room for her nephew, the captain.
The captain. We'll get back to him.
But the main intervention comes from Fräulein Montauk. She summons Kay to the dining room.
Oh, like a formal meeting?
Sort of. She says she's speaking for Fräulein Bürstner, says Bürstner feels a discussion is unnecessary, even pointless, claims she herself is relatively uninvolved, just trying to clear things up.
Right, the neutral mediator routine. But her actions are basically shutting Kay down completely.
Exactly. And while Montauk is doing this, who walks in?
Let me guess.
The captain.
Captain Lands himself. Tall man, about 40, fleshy, sunburnt face, and he kisses Fräulein Montauk's hand. Respectfully. Okay, maybe just polite, but not to Kay.
Not in Kay's eyes. This tiny gesture, it just solidifies everything for him. Suddenly, they're a group, a conspiracy, basically, acting all nice, but really trying to keep him away from Fräulein Bürstner.
Is he just projecting all his anxiety onto them here? I mean, is any of this real?
It feels like projection, absolutely. It's a prime example of how that external pressure, the court case hanging over him, makes him hypersensitive. He reads threats into everything.
Mundane things become sinister.
Totally. Fräulein Montag and Captain Land's arriving. It's not just social, it triggers this, group paranoia in him.
It's almost a coping mechanism, maybe. If you can't fight the big, vague threat, you find smaller targets.
That's a really good way to put it. You give the anxiety a face, a tangible target. And Kay convinces himself Montag is exaggerating his importance, that Bürstner is just a little typist who won't resist him for long.
Delusion meets defiance. So how does he react to this perceived plot?
He goes straight to Fräulein Bürstner's room, knocks quietly, then louder, then just opens the door. It's empty, except now there are 2 beds end to end.
Ah. So Montag is definitely moved in.
Yes, but his reason for going wasn't really to see Bürstner. It was, as the text says, to spite Fräulein Montag. A small act of rebellion.
But it backfires a bit.
Well, as he's closing the door, he sees them. Montag and Lance, just watching him, and their looks weigh heavily on Kay. That silent judgment.
So even his little acts of defiance feel monitored, judged.
It really shows that desperate need for agency, however small, however symbolic, his own home feels like enemy territory, and every interaction is a battle for status.
Okay, so that's the home front. Let's shift focus now. What about his professional life? Things seem a bit more stable there at first glance.
On the surface, maybe. He has this regular table at an inn, sits with judges, lawyers, barristers. He sees it as an honor.
And they see him as
a business expert. His opinions are apparently accepted, though the text notes, not without a certain irony from the legal professionals.
Okay, so maybe not quite the equal footing he imagines.
Possibly, but he does have a key relationship there with Heister.
Right, the prosecutor.
Yeah.
A huge man.
Yes, and Heister apparently vouches for Kay, gives him this privileged position in the group.
Interesting dynamic.
It is. Heister is fierce about legal points, but with Kay, he's calm, friendly, talks work, talks lady friends. Kay even helps Heister smooth things over with colleagues sometimes.
So Kay can navigate some social situations effectively. He builds alliances.
He certainly tries. The friendship even moves beyond the inn to evenings at Heister's place. Schnapps, cigars.
Sounds cozy. But there was a complication. Helene.
Ah, yes, Helene, Heister's companion. Initially tolerated, but then she became a nuisance. Tried to make Heister jealous by favoring Kay.
How did Kay handle that?
He just refused to engage, wouldn't look at her, eventually stopped visiting until Heister sent her away for good.
Gold, but effective, it seems.
Very. And it was after she was gone that Heister suggested they use the familiar du, the informal you. A big step.
It highlights how even Kay's friendships seem a bit transactional. They need to serve his comfort, his status.
That's a fair reading. But this closeness with Heister doesn't go unnoticed.
Uh-oh. By whom?
The bank manager. The very next morning, the manager mentions seeing Kay and Heister walking arm in arm, describes it in detail.
Just making conversation or...
Kay doesn't take it that way. The manager has this astonished smile, expresses concern for Kay's well-being and future, and Kay just crumbles internally.
Why?
He feels like he's under the manager's spell, being talked to as to a child. It triggers something deep in him. It reminds him of his father dying young, rejecting his mother's tenderness. It shows how easily his professional mask slips when faced with this perceived paternal judgment. He feels vulnerable, dependent.
So this is where the professional Kay and the vulnerable Kay really collide.
Absolutely. And feeling this vulnerability, he almost overcompensates. He gets this renewed, almost manic confidence, thinks he can smash the court.
Right. And decides to take on the deputy manager.
Exactly. But the deputy manager is smooth. He puts on this calm, supportive front, but subtly undermines Kay, distracts him.
And Kay loses control of the conversation.
He feels like he does, ends up agreeing to things he thinks are ridiculous decisions. It's Kay battling for agency again, this time in the office, and kind of losing.
We see this play out physically too, don't we? The desk rail incident.
Oh, that's a classic. Hayes presenting this big, innovative proposal, important stuff.
And the deputy manager
completely ignores him, fixates on this loose bit of wood, a low-carved rail on Kay's desk, takes out a penknife and starts trying to fix it.
While Kay's talking. Seriously.
Right in the middle of the report. It's not just a distraction, it's profoundly undermining. It's like saying, your ideas are less important than this tiny flaw in the furniture.
A power play, basically.
A subtle, demeaning one. The deputy gets carried away, breaks the rail, then blames the poor quality wood, then calmly sits down.
Wow. And Kay's just left hanging there.
Pretty much. But his reaction internally is pure defiance. He thinks he must not let up. He has to keep the deputy unsettled, make him aware of Kay's new abilities.
Even if it's just, as he admits, fighting for nothing but honor.
Yes. He even acknowledges his own delusions, this mix of hope or desperation that makes him think he'll win on the 11th attempt after failing 10 times.
This relentless, almost self-destructive need to fight these small battles. What does it really show us about Kay?
It shows him trying to build his own reality, I think. When you're facing something huge and confusing, like this court, maybe delusion, maybe fantasy, is how you cope, how you keep some sense of agency.
Which leads us directly into his dealings with the court itself, or its shadow, anyway.
Right. He gets that phone call, the court warning him about his outrageous remarks.
Saying he called the hearings pointless, refused to show up.
And telling him his case is seriously damaged. This is a final attempt to get him to engage.
How does Kay react? Does he feel guilty?
He tries to justify not going, says he was visiting Elsa, but then he admits to himself he probably wouldn't have gone anyway. Pure defiance again.
And what about consequences? Does the court threaten him?
It's weirdly ambiguous. He asks what happens if he doesn't show. The voice says, "We know where to find you," which sounds threatening.
Yeah, definitely.
But then adds, "There's no punishment for not coming of his own free will."
Strange. Like they want him to choose to participate in his own downfall.
Maybe. Kay's thought is, it's very careless not to do that. Like, why wouldn't they punish him? And the voice fades out with this warning. People do not usually deliberately lay themselves open to the court's power.
It's so unsettling. All threat, no specifics.
And his understanding gets even muddier, thanks to Tittarelli.
The painter. What does he reveal?
He tells Kay that the first office, the indictment office Kay dealt with, it's of no significance whatsoever, just an external mouthpiece for this inaccessible, great organization that actively seeks out guilt. But you can't ever reach the actual authority.
So the power is everywhere and nowhere. You can't confront it directly. Classic Kafka.
Absolutely. The system's power comes from being ungraspable.
So how does Kay cope with that, this abstract, unbeatable thing?
Well, his coping mechanisms get interesting. He starts trying to turn the tables psychologically. He tries to torture Tittarelli.
Torture him? Huh.
By hinting he has secret connections with the court. Playing mind games, he gets pleasure from these little victories.
Like he can manipulate the system's agents, even if he can't touch the system itself.
Exactly. He feels like he understands these people, can play with them, maybe even slip into the ranks and find salvation that way. He's projecting mastery onto something he can't master.
But these feelings, they're not exactly stable, are they?
Not at all. They're often described as ambiguous events or fantasies born of complete exhaustion when he's dozing on his office sofa.
What kind of fantasies?
He sees Frau Grubach's tenants becoming this accusing chorus. He sees Fräulein Bürstner with her arms round two men linked to a memory of a beach photo.
Wow. His anxieties are literally haunting his sleep.
And he dreams of court corridors, familiar but remote, and sees this strange foreigner dressed like a bullfighter, which captivates him painfully.
So these aren't just coping mechanisms. There's his mind desperately trying to create a narrative, any narrative, to make sense of it all.
I think so. Even if the narrative is distorted or nightmarish, it's about trying to reclaim agency, even if it's just inside his own head, through dreams or these little psychological games.
Okay, so after all this, the battles at home, at work, wrestling with this invisible court, Kay does something quite unexpected.
Yes. This sudden decision, seemingly out of the blue during lunch.
He decides to visit his mother,
whom he hasn't seen in 3 years, despite breaking promises to visit before.
And it's not like she's desperately ill or anything.
No, quite the opposite. Her health is improving, apparently. She's become exceedingly devout. So the visit isn't strictly necessary for her.
Which makes you wonder, why now? It doesn't feel like it's about her.
His own thoughts confirm that. He sees it as a tendency to feel sorry for himself, a desire to yield to his every wish. He tries to justify it as serving a good purpose, but
What, he doubts himself?
he does. Wonders if it's sentimental, if he's missing a crucial moment in his trial, if he'll just frighten her. And then he explicitly concludes, not going for his mother's sake.
So what is it for? An escape?
Perhaps an escape to a place where his identity feels safe, unchallenged. Where he's still the successful son, not the accused man.
And he acts quite decisively on this impulse.
Very. Tells Frau Grubach to pack. Asks the manager for leave, no explanation needed. Apparently the manager shows consideration.
And then there's that final moment as he's leaving.
Ah, yes. The clerk, Kulich, chases after him with an unfinished letter.
Yeah.
He just grabbed the letter from him and tore it up.
Wow, just like that.
And feels immense satisfaction, proving to himself he could still snatch a letter from a clerk with connections with the court, mind you, and just destroy it.
It's another small symbolic act of defiance, asserting power over a piece of paper, over a minor official.
Exactly, a desperate assertion of identity against the encroaching system.
And this act is immediately followed by the thought about his mother.
Yes, his realization that, in her eyes, he's still the manager. His reputation is intact there, unlike everywhere else.
A safe haven in her perception of him.
But even then, there's this lingering frustration. He regrets not being able to give Kulich 2 loud slaps on his pale, plump cheeks. That desire for more direct physical assertion of power.
So the trip isn't really about connecting with Mom. It's about finding a mirror that reflects the powerful Kay he wants to be, the one untouched by the court.
That seems to be the core of it. A search for validation in a space uncontaminated by his current troubles.
So wrapping this all up, what we've really seen today are these glimpses, these fragments, painting this picture of a man desperately fighting.
Fighting for his status, his self-worth, on so many fronts. Evaluating everyone, challenging authority figures, wrestling with his own doubts. All while keeping up this defiant front against something he can't even properly see or understand.
And constantly seeking out these small wins, these symbolic victories, just to feel like he still has some control, some agency.
It's a really powerful look at human psychology under extreme, ambiguous pressure.
Yeah, we've explored how he interprets literally everything around him, how he builds his own narrative of power and persecution, and how his personal life, his job, they all get tangled up in this bigger, mysterious fight.
He constructs his identity against these forces trying to define him. Every interaction is a test. Every act is loaded with meaning in this struggle.
It really is a testament to that deep human need for a why, isn't it? Even when the world refuses to give you one.
Absolutely. And Kay's journey, his personal and professional life interwoven with this baffling challenge, it really resonates.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Kay's constant search for these small battles, these symbolic wins. It raises a pretty big question for us too, doesn't it?
I think so. In a world that often feels unclear, where we face complex sisters we don't fully get, how do we make sense of it all?
Right. What might Kay have gained or maybe lost by always fighting for control, for definition, instead of maybe accepting the ambiguity, finding some peace in not knowing?
It's a fascinating question, one that definitely goes beyond Kay's specific story and invites us to look at our own ways of dealing with the inexplicable.